Okay, let's see if we can make this quick because I gotta go to work. All right, so I just came off my last win, and I was at work discussing it with a coworker who I also raced and beat before, and he was basically telling me, Ronnie, you ain't really racing anybody, and yada yada yada, and all this kind of stuff. And he was like, you know, because I mean, at this point, I think I had something like my record is like, I've been in 115 different street races, and I've won 98 of them. So he was basically saying I haven't really raced anybody. So anyway, he comes up with this thing where he's like, well, Ronnie, if you think you that good, if you think you that great, or whatever, could you beat Max Verstappen? Right? And I mean, I don't know where it came from, but you know, four-time world champion, and it didn't take but a second for me to say, yeah, he could get his ass whipped too. It is what it is. Now, as a Formula One fan, and we're both Formula One fans, you can't just say that and not, state why. As Formula One fans, we're halfway. Some of us are smart. So he was asking me why, and I was like, the bottom line is, in street racing, you get one shot. That's it. You don't get 70 laps to win. You get one. And if you're not 100% perfect, then you're going to get your ass whipped. That's just the way it is. I mean, I don't make the rules up. I just know what the hell they are. So, and I basically said, he asked me why he thought why I thought I could beat Max Verstappen. And he was like, basically asked me why I thought I could beat Max Verstappen. And I basically said, just one thing. He's not mentally stable enough to beat me. He's just not. And I mean, of course, as a Formula One fan, you have to elaborate. I was like, well, let's just go to Mexico, right? Let's just go to Mexico, for instance. Pundits came out and said that nobody would ever overtake Max on the outside, yada, yada, yada. And at the Mexico Grand Prix in 2024, Lando did it. Overtook Max on the outside of a corner. Max immediately lost it and bumped Lando off track. Immediately. I mean, the overtake was done. Lando made it to the apex first, and Max just bumped him off the track. Banged wheels. So Lando goes off track, still stays ahead of him. But Max is still upset. It's red mist time. I'm losing it. The next couple of corners, the next corner, I believe, Lando goes for the corner, and Max goes on the inside going for the corner. Full speed, just runs right through the corner. I mean, it's a wall on the other side. If Max hits Lando, both of them are going into the wall. Luckily, Lando knew his friend. It was like, as soon as they got to the corner, he went off track. But if Lando didn't go off track, Max would have ran inside of him. They would have both went into a wall. I mean, who knows what could have happened? Major injury, death, who knows? But Max didn't care. He didn't care because he was aggrieved that Lando overtook him on the outside. He didn't like it. He just lost it. And when you're in, like I said before, when you're street racing, you can't lose it like that. You get one chance. You get one shot to go through the quarter. And if you're frazzled, you know, on the line as you're getting ready to race, you're going to get your head cut off. It's the way it is. I don't make the rules up. I just know what they are. So that's one, that's one reason. I mean, we can go in and we can take other examples, right? We can look at other examples. I mean, let's just look at this year, right? In Spain, George Russell overtook Max. Max came out on the wrong tires, yada, yada, yada. And Max had to let George Russell back through because I think Max overtook George on off track or whatever. Well, anyway, Max is so upset that he has to let George back through, that as he comes up alongside of him, to let George, Max bangs George off the track. I mean, it's insane. I mean, of course they had issues in the race, but it doesn't matter. None of that matters. Mistakes were made, and you don't get back at somebody, or you don't, you don't become aggrieved to somebody because you have to let them back through, and you don't take it out on people. That's like having to hit somebody because you're mad that you did something wrong. And eventually that cost Max the championship. He lost the championship by 2 points. I believe he got a 10-second time penalty, and that cost him 10 points. Yeah, I mean, but that's what I'm saying. If you're not mentally strong in street racing, you will die. I've ran a person before where I didn't know what was going on in the other car, but I've been beside people where, my opponent tried to set his RPM level so he could launch the car, but he couldn't. He was so nervous that his foot was jumping on the clutch pedal, so he could never set it. Of course, he got killed, but that's what happens. Max is no different. Max is a person that's coming up. When he was coming up, he didn't do anything wrong. Even if he did do something wrong, he didn't do anything wrong. Right? I mean, we've seen that. Max runs somebody off track. Well, that's not his fault. And then they try to label it as some kind of genius move by Max. Just because, when he loses it all of a sudden. And when you're coming up and you're not held accountable for the things that you do, you can't improve yourself. You know what I mean? You can't, if you go through life, you're always right. You're never wrong. It's no way for you to grow. You can't improve. And that's the same way Max is. Everything that happens is somebody else's fault. He didn't win the championship this year. Now, this is crazy. F1, the pundits, blame the Red Bull car for Max not winning the championship. Not blaming him for losing 10 points based on him losing his shit in Spain. They just disregard that. They just disregard the fact that he did that. They're like, it was Red Bull. They didn't give him a good enough car. When that's not true. We could also go and say I don't 100% blame Max for this because, the F1 pundits, they basically say that Max is, he's infallible. He doesn't make mistakes or whatever like that. But in Silverstone, Max was second in Silverstone. Upon the restart in the wet, which they say that nobody can beat him in the wet, he spun around. He spun around in the track on the restart. I forgot how many places he lost, but I know he lost it. I know he lost more than 2 points. You know what I mean? You know, he was in second. That's like, what is that? 18 points. And I think he finished something like 6 or something like. So he lost way more than 2 points just in that. But because I know, that Max is not as great as they say he is in the wet, I didn't see that as being something that, it was a mistake. And that's the way I saw it. But that shit that happened in Spain, that was him. And that's why he could never beat anybody like me. Yeah. Yeah. In life, you have to have accountability. If you don't, then you go through life delusional, thinking that it's nobody else's fault but yours. It's somebody else's fault instead of it being yours. So, like I said, it is what it is. I mean, I look at different pundits and YouTube channels. I look at Wolfpack Performance. I look at Cameron CC. I look at P1 Podcast. I used to look at Wonderful before he stopped. I don't know what happened there. And I look at Fixed. Now, people say Fixed is crazy, but, the way I see it, Fixed just basically, he might have some conspiracy theories, but for the most part, what he says is right. You know what I mean? So, yeah, those are I also look at the race. But I have to say that for the most part, just like P1 Podcast, right? Tommy on P1 Podcast is like, I don't know. Did you see him on the, with the cape on, looking at Max qualify? I'm like, dude, you look ridiculous. But, it is what it is. And somebody like him, he would never come out and say that, that Max is basically being a child and he cost himself the championship. He would never say that, But it is what it is. And, at the end of the day, somebody like that it just can't beat it. Nobody like that could beat me. So, like I said, like I told my coworker, in order to win, it takes mentally, you have to be stable in order to win. Especially to win as long as I have been winning. You can't willy-nilly and on and off and all that kind of stuff. You have to be consistent. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And if you have any comments or whatever, just leave them and I'll answer them. No doubt.